You ever play a game that isn't like scary, but is just eerie enough that it's got you looking over your shoulder and jumping at every noise? That's Radiolight. This one's a 1980s style atmospheric thriller set in a small town of Ashwood Creek. And you play as Ethan, a local police officer sent into the woods to find a missing boy named Elliot. The game starts off with you staring at newspaper clippings and a bulletin board full of notes and documents about Elliot's disappearance. Elliot was a Boy Scout who left his tent in the middle of the night, walked into the darkness, and never came back. No trace of him. Body never found. All of his stuff just left behind in the woods. And there's all these weird circumstances too, like strange cave sounds near the park where he vanished, locals whispering about old cult stories, which, probably has nothing to do with what's going on here. And everyone you talk to has a slightly different version of what happened, so there's no foul play. Gameplay-wise, you're exploring Ashwood Creek National Park, gathering clues, and radioing back your findings to dispatch. And there is a balance here. It's not open world, and I think that's a good thing, because if you had a massive forest to wander about in the dark, you would never find your way out. But it's not totally linear either. Like, you can poke around a little bit, find paths, and investigate campsites. But it's more of an observation game than an exploration game. Your main tool and weapon is your radio. You dial into frequencies to hear secret messages or, accidentally tick off angry spirits. Sometimes you can even ward them off with a certain station. Probably some of that mumble rap, which that would drive anybody away. If it were me, I would think turn it to an old country station because, I'm already really scared and crying, but if we listen to some Keith Whitley, well then at least both of us are crying. The radioing back and forth to dispatch is such a cool mechanic, and right away, Radiolight sets a tone. This isn't a horror game that makes its claim to fame with gore and shock value. It's about that uneasy silence and that feeling that somebody's watching you just past the tree line. You're constantly questioning what's real and what's in your head. Now, this is going to sound like something that people say when they don't have anything else to say, but I truly mean it. I really enjoyed the lighting in this game. It nails that moonlit woods vibe where everything just feels barely visible enough, where you're reminded that all the humans are asleep and anything that's not human is wide awake and moving around. And it's dark, but it's not pitch black, because if it's pitch black, then this is just survivor horror with somebody spamming a pale-faced ghost jump scare. And if it was pitch black and just focused on jump scares, then your mind would be focused on getting out rather than solving a mystery. And then when it does go pitch black, you feel it, and you feel the weight of it. And when you go to different parts of the park and you see a cabin in the distance, it's often just illuminated by a warm glow of a lantern. So it's not just a checkpoint, it's another place to explore that makes the hair on the back of your neck stand up. Because again, it's that warm yellow porch light that tells you somebody's been here, but you don't know if they're still there. But then eventually you'll have to leave the cabin in which you stumbled up on, and again you'll walk, explore using your flashlight, and report to dispatch your finding and collect clues as you find them to shed some light on what the heck is going on. And I gotta say, the voice acting brought the panic to life. There seemed to be some real distress in Ethan's voice, and that made it all the more real. The sound design mostly hits too. Mostly. But here's something that tripped me up. Every so often, you'll hear a bear growl. Now, the first time I heard it, I froze and crouched and forgot everything I'm supposed to do when I'm facing a bear attack. But I sat and scanned the tree line, and I waited. Moved a little bit forward to get eyes on it, and nothing. Like, okay, maybe it ran off, but then it happened again. And again. Different areas, same sound. And after like the fourth one, I realized there is no bear. It's just a soundbite. Which wouldn't be bad if I didn't feel like the game wanted me to think that something was actually there. And after that point, every growl just became background noise. And that's a shame, because up to that point, the silence itself was doing all the work of creeping me out. Like, we didn't need a false alarm bear to give me goosebumps. And as you search, you can collect items too. Like this axe you find early on, they give it to you because you gotta clear some bushes and fallen trees in your path, so you gotta hack your way through it. And I used it for that, but more importantly, it was a defense weapon for me. Now, I can imagine you're supposed to play this game with your walkie-talkie out most of the time, radioing everything back that you see. But look, you get a weird noise or two out in the woods at night, and the axe stays out. We'll do the radioing thing later. Think about it. If there was a killer out there, were you more likely to mess with the person holding a walkie-talkie or an axe? Exactly. And I know running through the woods at night with an axe probably isn't the safest move. But you know what's more unsafe? Running through the woods without one. And the way I see it, if I die falling on my axe, at least I go out on my own terms. And speaking of collecting things, this almost sent me over the edge. There is a gun hanging in the back office of the visitor center. You can inspect it, you can look right at it, but you can't pick it up. Like, okay, if you don't want gunplay in your game, that is completely fine. But why show it? What is the point of showing this gun? Like, I'm going to pause my video for a minute, and I want somebody in the comment section to please tell me why you would include a gun on a wall that you can look at and you can't use, with a game that's scary and set in the woods. And you're a law enforcement officer. It's like the dev said, oh, you want this? Well, that's just too bad. It's decorative, and it's made of styrofoam. And speaking of item grabbing frustration, I picked up some random items in the game that I swear I never used. And I couldn't tell if that was a smart move to throw me off and it was meant to feel realistic. Like in real life, not everything you find in the woods is useful. But because every game trains you to believe if you pick something up, sooner or later, you're going to use it. Like, I still have those wood planks from earlier. Surely I'm going to need them soon, right? It's that old saying, when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. Well, in Radiolight, everything looks like it needs some wood planks. Now let's talk about the writing. Some of the dialogue back and forth felt a little lazy. Like when you find this trash campsite and you report it back to dispatch and he replies, must have been them teenagers. Really? Like, that's the best we got? Like, give me something. Give me something like, there's been a few teens Harley's been running off lately. Probably the mayor's kid and his delinquent buddies. But you didn't hear that from me. Like, that's world building. And another example is that there's this guy named Fred, and he's the keeper of the grounds, and this is going to seem like a really small thing, but this is just another example, and a bunch of small things eventually add up. He mentions people in town have crazy theories about this campground, saying there's even been talk about that old cult from the 70s. But this game is set in 1985. Like, nobody would talk like that. Like, if I was to refer to an event back in 2018, I wouldn't say, well, you know how the 2010s were. I would just say, hey, you remember a few years ago when such and such happened? Or I guess it's been about 7 years since that took place. Not, well, you know how the 2010s, well, back in the 2010s. I don't know. It just seems like these are two examples of many where the writing could have been improved. It just breaks the immersion for me. And hey, listen, I give grace. I think this game was made by a solo indie dev, and that is a lot of hats to wear. Design, code, writing, sound, I get it. It's tough. And hats off to him or her, but I feel like it wouldn't have been anything to call up a writing friend and just have them help you write some of your plans because you clearly had awesome ideas. And a co-writer could have made these awesome ideas sound great with the writing. And speaking of great ideas from the dev, I love this one. And this is a spoiler, but if you've ever been out in the woods at night and you know your mind can play tricks on you. So that's always in the back of your head while you're playing this game. Then after being in the park for most of the night, you start having more personal talks with the guy from dispatch. And there's a point where dispatch mentions Ethan's drinking past and wonders if he's fell off the wagon, because at one point he was acting really crazy when he drank. And that's when it clicked for me. Like, maybe these monsters aren't real. Maybe you're an unreliable narrator. So now at this point, I don't know what's real. I don't know if my man's just been throwing them back or there's actual booger bears outside the light of my flashlight. I mean, that twist hit me pretty hard and it made me rethink everything I've seen up to that point. Okay, and this might be an unpopular opinion, but I gotta say it. I feel like there is way too much graphic language in this game. Like, there is an F-bomb or GD every single sentence. Like, I get that it's realistic for people to cuss when they're scared, but I mean, it is way overly excessive. You'll radio back a vandalized sign, and it's like, hey, there's markings on this effing sign. And dispatch is like, markings on what effing sign? Like, it's just way out of bounds. Especially when the game's art style looks cozy enough that it could attract younger players. It just doesn't fit the tone of the game to me. And here's another point, and this might just be me, but he's law enforcement, and talking back and forth with dispatch, right? Like, that just might be because of my background. My dad is sheriff of our parish, or county if you're not from Louisiana. And I've got to say, I've spent my life hearing officers talk, and I have never heard talk like this on a police radio. I really don't think they would keep their professional career long if they talked like this on the job. And you could say that this is a private channel between two officers, but still, I've never heard that before, and officers might talk like that off-duty. Sure, they are people, but on duty, that's just not going to happen. Like, this isn't a locker room or a dive bar, it's law enforcement. So the dialogue didn't match the realism that it was aiming for. to me. In short, Radiolight is basically the gameplay of Firewatch and the story of Oxenfree, with some influence from Stranger Things. And look, I don't mean to sound like I'm oversimplifying it and it come across as an insult. I think it's great. Like, I love those games. So getting a game that reminds me of both isn't a bad thing. And if you like slow burn mysteries, eerie vibes, and stories that build tension without relying on cheap scares, you'll probably like this. Just don't expect perfect polish. It is an indie dev, so that's just part of the charm. Just keep in mind of all the language you're going to hear. There's two moments that genuinely made me jump, but the real strength here is how uneasy it keeps you. Most of the time, you're the one looking for missing people, and after those two good scares, I started to get the feeling at any point the search party is going to need to come looking for me. Radiolight builds that eerie feeling really well. It's great for players who like unraveling unsolved mysteries that you know there is more tea involved if you just keep digging, combined with some cozy spook. Now, not without its flaws, but definitely worth your time if you like that mystery slowly bleeds into horror kind of story. So, would a mediocre gamer like Radiolight? The answer is, if you're okay with the language, yes.
I'm at the visitor center. The toilets here are something else.
What are you doing in the... I'm not even gonna ask.